Thank you. And this is the one point that we do want to bring to the general public. If you don't own your bloodline, you don't own your child, the state owns it. So you have to realize this stuff about what we're going to be bringing some controversy statements, possibly dealing with a couple of videos on the Seventh Amendment. And the most thing is that you have to realize that some of these people that are putting these videos out, including British Public Broadcasting, they're putting out their structure because they are the British government. Read between the lines. Who's putting what out, who's doing what, and what they're stating. See, the Seventh Amendment ties back to the Sixth and Fifth, and if you want a jury trial, it's supposed to cost you $20 in silver. Read the actual law. But that includes a jury trial of 12 men and women of your pairs. And if you don't know what that means, please look it up. Because that means not family members. That means people that grew up around you and the injured or the attacker or the accused. So it's supposed to be an unbiased jury. It's supposed to be an unbiased structure. So the only way to make sure that happens is by that. You know, that means the people around you. That doesn't mean friends and families. That's why I've been preaching that we need to put administrative rules in, which I have filed several recently with the Secretary of State of the State of Oregon, Dennis Richardson, and Legislative Council. Because I'm serious about what I've been talking about, folks. This is not a joke. And if you guys don't get it, I'm sorry. I'm sorry because you're not standing up for your rights and you're not participating in the facts. That's like when you vote, you're giving away your rights to that structure. You're saying that you're not a responsible man or woman. Because technically only voters have to be landowners. And that includes women, because there was never a bias with the Constitution on that. That's like the woman has the right to her body. Man doesn't have a right to say, oh, I have a right to an abortion. What the hell? Just recently, one state just passed, Arkansas just passed, that if a woman is raped, the man gets to sue the woman for raping her if she decides to have an abortion. What kind of bullshit is this religious crap? Because, see, if a woman is raped, she has a right to her body to decide. Nobody has a right to have an opinion. I don't give a damn if you're God himself. The woman has a right because the Constitution gave her rights, not the Bible. And once you start accepting that reality, this is where the facts come through. Because, see, we have a right to protect our bloodline. And that's what, when we get into these videos here in about a couple minutes here, but we have a right to protect our bloodline. And this is what I'm trying to get people to comprehend. Okay, if a woman has been attacked and assaulted, it's her body. It's her responsibility. She decides. Not your religious point of view has an opinion to the woman. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm really concerned, people who try to influence somebody like that of their religious beliefs should spend 30 days in jail. Because, see, that goes back to the Christian Crusades and all the other hell we've been living with the Christians and all this crap that's been going on for generations. Anybody who knows American law, American native law, what they call white men, even though that I'm partly white, but I'm not playing that game. Say, I'm not playing the color game. Wake up. There's no color issue. The bottom line comes down if you're lawful or native. Your skin has nothing to do with the bullshit. Either you have a lawful constitutional right or you have illegal privileges. It's cut and dry. And once people start accepting this reality, we can start moving on with greater and better things. Like I said, when Trump passed this administrative rule and people are panicking, oh, get the cops out. And then he just passed another administrative rule to make sure that the cops honored their oath of office. Did anybody catch that? I did. I put it out. Yeah, that's what I've been sending Trump, and what I just put on the Facebook walls, and what I put on Oregon trackers, new Oregon trackers, United States for America Elected and Public Employees Oversight Committees on Facebook, and Civil Rights 1866, Lawful Bloodline Americans, Native Americans, and then we have the Recall Cape Brown on Facebook as well. So I put this information up. I've been going after this. Now, see, when the thing with the refuge going back to the Bundys, that technically was signed back over to the state of Oregon in 2006. And I passed that information out to hundreds of people, literally. So when I put that information out, because that was put in, and Dennis Richardson, the Secretary of State, comprehended it. So if you want to stand up for your rights to travel, men and women, it's very simple. Write your affidavits, take liability, release the state for corporation from liability. But ask them where the funding is for the Uninsured Motorist Fund. I have that on YouTube video with Zener Roblin. So when you look at this stuff and you start putting this stuff together, we are getting it. We don't want riots in the street. We're not sitting out there trying to be cannibals in any fashion of the word of zombie bullshit. We want to make sure that people comprehend what the law is of this nation or this country, the 48 States United. Remember, Alaska and Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and all that is members of corporation. And I have put that stuff up, even with the IRS, their administrative code numbers and everything with the IRS. Remember, the IRS has not paid any income tax or revenue tax to Washington, D.C., and what is that, Washington, D.C., since 2006. So that's why it's important to realize when you're going to these courts of how the standing on your First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh Amendment, and your right to speedy trial. You have to initiate that in writing. And then when they don't respond, that's the point that people need to stand behind you, writing to the judge going, well, what are you committing treason and stuff? See, it's utilizing and comprehending the way our elected and public employees work and the way our Constitution is and the way our courts work. It's like last night we played a video dealing with the United Patriot, the Constitutional Patriots. And so, I mean, my response was, yeah, there was no commentary from you after it played. Now, I want you guys to start figuring this stuff out. Because when you're sitting there responding and fighting for your rights, and everybody keeps going, well, it takes money. I have to do this, and this nonprofit needs this money. All right? Hey, I need a heat pump on my home, or else I'm going to freeze this winter. I got a dog that needs $500 of surgery because of a hangnail or dew claw. You know, so when I listen to all these people that go off on these things, it's like, you're no different than me. I'm no different than you. But right now, we're not sitting there defending the bloodline of the children that are coming into this country. There's no future. So if your child's been born or what they call birth, but see, a birth is like doing a document. A document, you doc a document out of a doc. So it's comprehending with the birth certificate, documents, and how these administrative words work compared to what we think they work. So, but anyhow, I'm going to zip it up here for a minute. Let's get into a couple of these videos, because I want to get these things up so that way you guys can start comprehending how this chain of command works. Right. And this is for educational purposes only. And I've tried to send emails to some of these men and women to get authorization. I have not done it, but there's no commercial financial gain we're getting. We're just passing their own words of their own education for you to listen to.
What is the Seventh Amendment, and what does it state? The Seventh Amendment, and quote, states, In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. What does the Seventh Amendment mean? Well, basically, the Seventh Amendment is saying that if you have a civil suit and the suit exceeds a certain amount of money, you can take it to trial and you can have a jury in that trial. The second part to the Seventh Amendment means that if a jury finds a conclusion to a case, the facts that the jury has found cannot be changed by an appellate or a Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can only look at constitutional issues with the case, not with the facts of the case.
Okay, you playing the other one, and then I'll get in before you hit the third one. No, after this one, we'll open up the floor before we hit the third one, see if maybe we've got it, and then we'll get into the third one.
The Constitution was not going to be ratified. The Constitution was dead in the water because the state of North Carolina said, we're not ratifying it because it doesn't have a Bill of Rights. And there were a whole bunch of people all over that said, after the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, said, we got to have a Bill of Rights. And they said, oh, no, it's enumerated. They said, no, it's not. And that's why we have the right to trial by jury. And that's why we have the right of free assembly and the right to freedom of expression and the right of freedom of religion. The men that put this together were the most powerful men, you could argue, in the world, because they had just created something totally new and different, a Republican federal democracy. And they could have kept all the rights and powers to themselves. Now, yes, they were all white. There were no women involved. Certainly there were all sorts of groups and subgroups, blacks and everybody else were excluded. But the germ of the idea was that rather than they keep the power to themselves, they handed it to juries that were made up of people that worked in stores and stables and shops and riverboats and regular normal people who were going to hold and weigh this stuff. It's an amazing story. And it's one that is ignored and being politicized right now, and I don't like it one damn bit. I get very angry about it. I mean, I really get angry. I get up on my high horse about it because they keep messing, politicians keep messing with the citizens' right to sit on a jury and decide. That's not right. Think about the thousands of trials that are going on in this country every day about everything from something in small claims court where they're arguing about whether or not he said he'd sell me those 4 tires, to these enormous criminal cases that go on against the mafioso and drug dealers and all this stuff, to medical malpractice cases, to criminal cases. For the greatest part, you don't hear anything because these juries get it right. And then they leave and they go back to their homes and their families and their work. Nobody's ever going to sensationalize that.
So, anyhow, that brings us everybody's attention. This is the one thing that, what is that called? Risk management has been pointed in the states. Now, risk management, when you bring up a case against them, or what you've gone through with elected and public employees attacking you and stealing your goods and your assets and your property, they're supposed to make the amends for the state, but they're not doing that. So that's the point that you need to file on the board members of these corporations that you own. Okay? That's the one thing that the people own these corporations so long as you're a lawful bloodline native. Nobody's disputed me. Now, I did send out the rights to travel to the Secretary of State and to the House and Senate for traveler's card, not an ID card or anything, because I agree that we need to know who's lawful and legal in this country. Because I don't give a damn about immigration. I want to know my bloodline, my natives in this country. I want to know who that is protecting this country that are immigrants that took the oath to protect the Constitution. Not their damn religion, not their whatever their fantasy of their Disneyland train of thought is for their children. That is the one thing that right now what's going on in this country. People are so dumb. I mean, Mark Dice, he gets out there and does a lot of these things on YouTube and proves that people are stupid. Jay Leno have done that, educating that or asking people questions on the street. So most people in this country have been so stupefied by democracy. And when he's talking about a democracy, democracy means you have no rights. There is no such thing as a republic democracy. That is the same thing as calling yourself a sovereign citizen. There's no such thing as either. A sovereign citizen has no rights. A citizen, so long as that you are using the capital C, not the small c, and make sure it's in your affidavits in writing, so that way you have it produced in evidence. See, when you go to these courts, that's the one thing that people don't realize, that you have to produce evidence, not hearsay. So, and if you're not writing in your evidence, too, that you are the corpus delicti under USC 3771, that you are the injured man or woman, you have no rights then, because once you say you're a corporation, the corporation gets to decide. So you're putting it in the judge's hands to decide of a corporation, not as a living man or woman. Now, we have been seeing some changes across the country with this, because there has been about 200 judges now across the country who have been arrested for human trafficking. And I ask you to pay attention in your cities and listen to what's going on. And when you hear this stuff, post it up so others can start reading this stuff, reading what's going on with this. Because remember, when Donald Trump passed it December 27th, 2017, the human trafficking bill, we already had that in effect by administrative rules. But he had to pass it by, administrative order to the public employees on it for you people to charge. And that's where you have to write your instruments. See, the district attorney, state attorney general, police departments cannot write an affidavit or to put something on record. Now, when they do that, they put themselves in legal liability, and we don't want them in legal liability. We have them to do a job, and so we have to write the affidavits. We have to sit there and instruct them how to do their job. And we have to do it politely. Things are changing, so work with the change. Work with the structure that is going on. It's your responsibility. Anyhow, I'm going to zip it up. Let's get to the other video, and then I'll open up the floor. He'll play.
Hey guys, welcome to Hip Hughes History. It was Thomas Jefferson that said an educated citizenry is a vital requisite for our survival as a free people. And that's why we're going cray-cray for the learning on the internets and the YouTubes. We're going to see if we can't knock out the 7th Amendment to the Bill of Rights. It's not going to take long. Straightforward, short and sweet. 7 is civil, baby. So let's do it bang bang style. Let's do the learning on the YouTubes. All right, let's read the words. Are you ready for me? Watch this.
In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of common law.
All right, there's really 2 parts here, guys, and they're really straightforward. The first part is in reference to a jury trial in a civil case. According to common law, and this goes back to Great Britain and kind of judicial decisions that occurred over there, springing forth from the Magna Carta. So there's a couple of exceptions to common law, but basically what it means is if it's not a criminal trial, that's taken care of, the 6th Amendment, that you have the right to a jury trial if there's a lawsuit, if you're suing somebody or being sued, except for maritime cases, which is like naval kind of stuff. If you're suing the government or if it has something to do with patents, pretty much any other lawsuit type of case, you have the right to a jury trial. That has been defined as having at least 6 members on the jury. So it has to be a unanimous decision. Now this is for federal cases, of course. This is an amendment that has not been selectively incorporated, which means that the judicial branch has not interpreted the 14th Amendment, no state shall deny its citizens equal protection and the Due Process Clause, and has basically incorporated most of the rights in the Bill of Rights, but not number 7, but it doesn't matter because every state has jury trials for civil trials. Now the second part, in reference to this kind of facts thing, basically the idea is there's a big worry that Article 3 and Section 2 specifically, and you can look at that right up on the wall, basically is saying that the Supreme Court has the right to review appellate decisions based on fact. So the big worry is that the courts that are appointed are going to be able to basically nullify jury decisions. So on facts. So if a jury decides that, I don't know, somebody gets awarded X amount of money, or that there was a certain type of pollution that led to a disease, and that disease now needs to be compensated by a company, or something like that. The fear is that because of Article 3, Section 2, that the federal branch would be able to change the facts of decisions that were made by juries. So basically what this says is, I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is you can have appellate jurisdiction. You can look at constitutional issues, but you're not going to re-examine. It's called the re-examine clause. You're not going to re-examine the facts that were found true by a jury. It's none of your business. It was Hamilton, and I think Fed 83, that argued this wouldn't be a problem, that it would just go back and there'd be another jury trial anyway. And he was confident that jury trials would be secured in common law through congressional action. But the anti-feds were having none of it. They were like, I don't think so, Alexander. So the 7th Amendment. All right, we certainly want you to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Click the button right there and you'll zip through the internets onto the YouTubes where you can subscribe and get updates and new videos and such like that. Check the description below. We have tons of other EDU channels that you probably should be watching. And we'll see you next time. You know what I'm going to say, where attention goes, energy flows. There we go. That's true all the time. So family tomatoes, and they're going for a little family picnic, they're going for a walk, and the little baby tomato in the back falls way back. So the mother tomato's got to kind of jog all the way in the back, and when she gets there, she steps on the little baby and she goes, catch up.
Are we back now? So, but anyhow, I want to bring to the point on that when you hear that, and he's talking on a democracy point of view too. who's running the courts. So that's the one thing that you need to know when you're filing your affidavit, who's running the courts. You need to know what spear they're running, what ball that's on top of the flag. They're having a gold fringe flag. What court are you going into? See, this is your responsibility to file these instruments. Yes, we were not indoctrinized to know how the court system works because they had to do that, because if they didn't do that, the so-called corporation attorneys wouldn't have an income to rape, rob, and pillage us. So seeing a lot of us have been waking up to this real fact, and people are getting it now more and more. So your amendments do have something in place to learn and educate your children on these things. Because when I put up the administrative rules on this stuff, or we put it up on new.org and trackers and stuff, we're putting it up to educate your kids how to own your bloodline, how to claim your responsibility. You do that, and more lawful bloodline natives do that, and including legal citizens that comprehend they have a responsibility to pay the taxes until the fifth generation. They follow through with the administrative rules. Then they have what they have co-rights. In other words, they're paying for their rights as they're going along to ensure their bloodline rights. When you step out of the movie and you watch the production, you start reading this stuff, you really start putting this stuff together going, holy mackerel, does this actually mean what it means? Yes, it does. So when Trump put this administrative rule dealing with the forest deputies, now he put out an administrative rule saying, all right, we're giving back the forest deputies, but if they don't honor their rights, they'll go to jail. Read it. See, this is what people have been asking for. You want this. Now be Americans. Educate your natives. Your lawful bloodline natives. That means your Indians, your nations, your reservations. Come on. I mean, the other point is, how come the reservations ain't growing food, doing pelts and skins? Because children should be knowing their history, their native history, not religion. If they knew how to deal with tanner hides and pelts and all that before religion, they could survive. In religion, you can't survive. You have to get on your knees and bow and pray and plead for forgiveness or life. So those are things that, we've got to balance these things out right now today. So when you step back and watch the production, that's why I keep recommending a movie called Interstate 60. And I do recommend that people watch that twice. Because when you watch it twice, it really explains your court system. Because the ideas go off on the contracts, and you start listening to the words that the actors are putting in that movie. And once you comprehend the words they're putting in that movie, hey, you're getting it. I was impressed when I first saw that movie because that just opened up a new door to me on a lot of stuff that I've been preaching about. And it's getting people to comprehend and opening up their minds and seeing what the truth is right in front of their face. So once you start seeing more and more of the facts, it's like last night, we ran a video of the Constitutional Patriot Radio Network, or show. Anyhow, that was run, and I've been pushing that out, and I'm trying to get that out to the general public. But the point being on that one is when you're doing this stuff and you're passing these videos, put your rights and responsibilities. Because everybody's going, oh, Facebook blocks me, Facebook does this. All you children want to whine and cry. Instead of when you're doing that, you're passing a message, here's the law. Put in your message. And don't forget to thank Zimmerman and the board members. Without them, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing today. Wake up. Common sense, politeness. I watch all these attacks on all these corporations of men and women that put stuff up for us to utilize. And how many of you actually thank these men and women that gave you the right to post your children's pictures and do all this stuff? To post the stuff for your nonprofit corporation. Propose that, donate here or give a gift here. Do people really think about that? Because these men and women are the ones that gave you that, I would say a right under the First Amendment, but if you're not filing that First Amendment right in your emails and your structures of your letters, how are they supposed to stand up for it? Because you're not backing them up by their agreement when you agreed to be on Facebook. I was just recently talking to somebody about some of the agreements on these things, and people go, well, what? I never read it. I just agree to it. And I'm going, you don't read the contract? You don't put anything in it? You don't, respond to the contract? No, I just agree to it. And then you wonder why the things happen to you, because you're not reading these things. That's like a mortgage contract. You're not reading it. That's like a contract on a used car. You're not reading it. Oh, I just got a car. I signed it, and I'm just done. So, I mean, even when it comes to religion, Oliver, oh, God, he does a deal on the Week Show. Anyhow, he does a talk show on HBO. And he has a hell of a one on religion. He's from England. And if anybody pays attention, how come all your talk show hosts today on late night are all from Canada or England? We're not supposed to have contact with these people. They're sitting there brainwashing you to, they can't destroy the Constitution, but we can sit there and mind control you so that way you give up your Constitution rights. You're living it, folks. I've watched the stuff that even with Britain's Got Talent. Cool, nice production. But I'm not going to waste my time calling in and spending my money on this crap for England. And when you do electronic transfers like that, that's called a federal debt exchange. So you're giving them your Social Security number. You're giving them your ID by doing that. Aren't you guys paying attention to all this stuff? That's what you're doing? We need to help these people that right now is all over YouTube. In another country. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? We're not even helping out the people in this country. How come the people in this country, especially in California, are living in their own shit in the streets? They wake up. Now, Jerry Brown did pass the administrative rule 3 weeks ago that if you can prove a cop violated your rights, they go to jail. And nobody pays attention to that one. I try to get some people paying attention to what's going on. And they're going, well, you don't know what this is. And I'm going, pay attention when these men and women are passing these administrative rules of their state, what's going on. They're making and trying to make the best amends they can. So you have to support them when they're doing this stuff. That's how this country is going to get back. You cannot sit there and shock it because we don't want the United Nations on our doorstep. Remember, the one thing is when Trump disbanded and got away from the United Nations, the United Nations is the British government, the enemy of our country, as well as Nazi Germany, because Nazi Germany formed and produced the United Nations. That was formerly the League of Nations. Were you trying to say something? Hello? Okay. So we already played all 3 videos, right? Okay. So what I wanted folks to comprehend, when it comes to filing your administrative rules in your court system, You have to write large U, small N. Okay, United States, large S, small T. You want to get in an Article 3 court. You don't want administration, one court of the corporation, legislative courts. But see, knowing how to write your affidavits, knowing how to put this stuff into effect, yes, it takes knowledge. Yes, it takes listening. It takes education. Now, I'm not the only one that's on the internet saying this to people. There are tons of men and women out there explaining this. But remember, when you listen to them, especially when you give up your rights to a bar licensed attorney, you're a ward of the court. You have no rights. Now, there are groups that are out there going, well, you need to have an attorney. You need to do this. You need to do that. Well, if you want to go to those groups, and most of those groups have never won their case. Now, there are men and women who have filed, who have brought things forward. Now, what Donald Trump did by the administration on your public lands, get off your butt and write him and thank you for the rights to travel. State the rights to travel, because that gets you back in the woods to get your firewood for your homes, to hunt and fish for your food for your families. And now we're going to be waiting for the next one that says when the states do fish production, they have to double and triple their fish productions. Because our rivers and streams should be flooded with fish. How are we supposed to survive and eat? We know on the West Coast we got nuclear radiation from, Fukushima, it's already proven. And then we got Hanford leaking in the Columbia River. Channel 5 in Washington has already proven that. So we've got to look at the other food resources when it comes inland, in your inland lakes and stuff. They can plant big salmon and trout in those things. They do not need to sterilize them as they do today. So we have the options in our hands right now at the Department of Fish and Wildlife. The Fishing Administration for Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife on Natural Hatchery Projects are meeting